Now, let's move on to the new topic, that is rights of bailee. After knowing the duties of the bailee, now let us know what are the rights of bailee. Bailee has got certain rights. What are they? Let's know one by one. The first one is to recovery necessary expenses. It is given under section 158. If there is any expenses incurred, he has a right to recover that expenses. The second one is recover compensation. So compensation is in case if he has incurred any loss, then he has to be compensated for the loss, right? So that is dealt in section 164. Remember this? In yesterday's class we were discussing about this 164 section, wherein if there is any loss incurred, the bailee has to be compensated by the bailer. Fine. Again we'll discuss this. Let's move on to the next point. Have lien on the goods paid. So what it says, have lien on the goods paid. Lien is a very interesting topic. Let us discuss about what exactly is lien and how payment comes into picture. That's dealt under section 170 and 171. For as of now, just know what it is. It is one of the right of the bail. The next is suit against a wrongdoer. Suit against a wrongdoer. Obviously, everyone has got a right when something wrongful act has been taken place by some person. Everyone has got a right to file a case against him. Even the bailee also has a case to file against a person who does something wrong to him. Now let's go one by one and know what are the rights in detail. The first right is right to recover necessary expenses, which is dealt under section 158. What does it says? Section 158, it says that right to recover necessary expenses. When a bailee, it says, your section 158 says that when a bailee renders some services, he is entitled for remuneration. He has a right to recover for the same and also exercise the lien in respect of goods of such goods until he recovers the payment. What it says is, basically your section 8, it says you can divide it into parts. When a bailee has rendered some service, first point, he is entitled to recover that particular amount from the bailer. If at all he does not pay, he can exercise a lien. Lien means generally taking into his control, having it himself, not giving to the bailer. He can keep it to himself till when? Till the bailer gives him the money. Whatever the default money is there, that has to be returned by the bailer. Simple. We'll go for an example. Suppose I have some gold biscuits with me. Now, what to do with the gold biscuits? I go to a jeweler and I tell him that, see, please make it into a beautiful design. I want a beautiful design. I give him the design. I approve the design. I say, fine, I'll come after 10 days. You please keep the jewelry ready. Fine, everything will be ready, and after 10 days I go to the jewelry shop and I ask for my jewelry. Now, don't you think it is my duty to pay him the amount? Whatever he has exercised in making that gold biscuits into a beautiful jewelry. He has shown his skill and art into making it into a beautiful jewelry. So he has to be remunerated, right? You have to give remuneration for his service, right? So the bailer, has given my jewelry to the bailee, that is jeweler, and now for his service rendered, I have to give him the amount or a remuneration. To be more precise, remuneration. If at all I don't give him, he has a right to exercise lien. That is, he has a right to keep it himself in his custody till I pay my default amount. Till I pay my amount. Clear all the dues, clear all the money to him. Got it? The example is clear? We'll take one more example. Now, there is a person A, he is leaving station. He has a horse in his house. He goes to his neighbor B. He says to B, B, please take care of my horse. Meanwhile, when I'm out of station, please take care of my horse. I'll be back in 1 week. B agrees and he takes care. After 1 week, A comes back and he says, I want the horse. Now, don't you think there are some expenses incurred while taking care of the horse? For example, we'll take one simple expenses. For feeding the horse, he should get the food for the horse and all. So, don't you think there is an expenses incurred for that? Now, who has to give the expenses? Who has to compensate the B? Yes, it is A who has to compensate because he is the owner of the house and he has given it for some days, for temporary period, to take care of the horse. And now the expenses which have been incurred for feeding the horse by B has to be recovered from A. Got it? 2 examples, simple and clear. We'll go to the next point, that is right of a bailee to recover compensation under section 164. Yesterday, when we were dealing with duties, we came across something called when the bailer has no title over the goods which he has bailed. Remember, I told you sometimes it happens that the bailer somehow obtains the goods fraudulently and he becomes a bailer and gives it to the bailee on the contract of bailment. And then later, bailee gets to know that he is not a real owner of that particular goods or property. Some other person is the owner. And now that actual owner files a case against bailee asking him to return back the goods. Now, as per other sections 166 and 167 where we dealt, we saw that for bailee, under the contract of bailment, the bailee has to return the goods only to the bailer in case if he is not a real owner also. It is his duty because under contract of bailment, it says that the bailee has to return the goods to the bailer only, to the person who has bailed him. Now, there is a third party who is the real owner, so the goods have to be returned back to him. Now this third party files a case against bailee, you have to return the goods to me and nobody else. So the bailee has to go defend the suit, right? So he'll incur some legal expenses. Now who do you think has to compensate for this? Yes, the so-called bailer has to compensate it even though he is not the owner of that particular good. Got it? Clear? So these two are the one which are really very important. Let us recover necessary expenses and recover compensation. You can get to know this by your definition itself. The definition is so clear that it gives you an idea of what is the duty of a bailee and rights of bailee. Now let's discuss the third right which the bailee has got. The third one is right of lien on the ground on the goods paid. So it says that there is some right, this right of lien on the goods paid. Now to understand this, what is right of lien, let's know what is the meaning of the word lien. Lien means a right to keep possession of another person's until the debt is being cleared. So I'll explain it to you more clearly. What it says is, it is a right of a person who has in his possession some goods, and for that goods, obtaining that goods, there is some loan taken and given has a security for that amount. That loan amount, for the loan amount, the security is given as some good. So until that loan amount is cleared, that particular debt is cleared, that particular good which is kept as a security can be with the possession of a person who has given a loan. He can keep it in his possession and he can say that when you clear the amount, I will give back your good. So basically, lien means right to keep in possession. Right to keep in possession of goods till till the debt is cleared of the other person. Simple. Whenever you get a question on this topic lien, just try to answer what is the meaning of lien and then proceed with all the kinds of lien and other things. Next, coming to the contract of bailment. Why under contract of bailment the lien has come? It means lien is the right of the bailey. It is the right of the bailey. It is the right of the bailey to recover some amount which the bailier has to give for his service or labor. Got it? So, the bailier has to give some amount to the bailey, then only the goods will be given back to the bailier. Simply he is not asking for the money. He has done something for that. He has either worked on it, used a skill or art, or he has done something, he has put in his labor for that. That is why he is asking for the amount. And that should be a lawful one and a rightful one also. Now, our Indian Contract Act recognizes two kinds of lien. The first one is particular lien. This is dealt under section 170 of Indian Contract Act. And other one is a general lien that is dealt in our section 171 of our Indian Contract Act. There only the right of lien on the goods bailed under the contract of bailment is also dealt. So there is a particular lien and there is a general lien. Now let's move on. Let's try to know what is a particular lien. Under section 170 you have something called bailey's particular lien. It says that where bailey, in accordance with the purpose of bailment, has rendered any service involving his labor or skill in respect of goods bailed, then he has got a right to receive due remuneration, and if at all he is not receiving the due remuneration, he can take that particular good into his custody. He can have it in his possession. Got it? That is what your section 170 says. I'll break it and I'll tell you. It says very simple. When the bailey, under the contract of bailment, he has taken some goods in his possession. And there is a purpose for which the bailier has given the goods to bailey. And that purpose is accomplished. How it is accomplished? He has used a skill or put in his labor for that. And now he has to get remunerated for it. So, while returning that particular good, the bailier has to pay him the remuneration. If at all he makes a default, he does not pay, then the bailey has got a right to exercise lien over that good. Or simple, you can say that the bailey has got a right to have that possession till the bailier repays the amount. Got it? Now let's move on. Let's take an example for this. Now, as I told you, remember the jewelry thing which I told you? The same thing. We'll take an example of a diamond. Now, A has got some rough diamond. He goes to a jeweler B and he says, see, please cut it properly and also polish it, and I want it. So he has said, what is for the purpose is very clear. He wants the rough diamond to be neatly cut and polished and return and give it back to him. Now after 10 days, the bailier A goes and asks B to give the a diamond which is neatly finished, polished and all, to give it to him. Now what do you think? Don't you think that A has to give some remuneration to B's skill and whatever labor he has put in to cut and neatly polish the diamond? Yes, he has to pay certain amount to him. And if at all he doesn't pay it, then B has got every right to exercise lien over the diamond. That is, he can keep it in his possession till the debt, that is, the amount is cleared or till it is paid. Clear? For the services rendered by B. Always just try to complete saying that for the services rendered by the B, the person A has to give the money or pay the amount to him. Fine. Now, If the bailee has agreed, next point, if the bailee has agreed not to exercise any right, he says that, bailee says that I don't want to exercise any right, even though the amount is due. He says no, since he is my friend, I don't want to exercise any right, I'll waive off. So what do you think? Can he exercise his right after saying that? No, he cannot exercise. This is the right given to the bailee to recover the remuneration. If at all he is giving up his right, or if he is waiving his right, he cannot recover the amount. Now after this, there's one more question that comes in your mind. What happens if bailee parts away with the goods? He gives the goods to the bailer. Okay, he gives away his possession. And he does not receive the remuneration also. Now what do you think happens at this case? Can he get back his money? Actually no. Okay, it's another point. He'll part away with the possession of the goods, and then again the bailer comes and gives that goods back to him for some other purpose. The first purpose was for something else, and the second purpose is other one. Second, there is one more purpose. Now, do you think the bailee can take the possession and ask him to pay for the first purpose, remuneration for the first purpose? For that, we'll see this case law. The case law is Edulji versus Cafe John Bros. What happens in this case is, there is a seller and a buyer. The seller sold the second-hand refrigerator, and the buyer buys the same refrigerator. After some time, there is some problem in the refrigerator. He removes the two parts from the refrigerator and sends it to the seller, asking him to repair it and give it back. Now the seller, previously when the sale took place, he was not paid. So at that time he did not exercise his lien. When he was not paid during the initial sale, he did not exercise any lien. He said, he never said that you please pay me the amount and then take the refrigerator. He never said that. He gave the refrigerator, and the buyer did not pay the amount also, and he did not exercise any lien for that. He has waived off. He has given up. Now again, there is some two parts of the refrigerator which has come to the seller in asking him to repair it. Now, keeping these two parts of the refrigerator, can he exercise a lien, and can he claim the amount for the first thing, that is when he sold the refrigerator, earlier one, there was some amount to be given to him which was due from the buyer. Can he claim for that? Has he got right for that? What do you think? So it was held that seller's right of lien had come to an end when he had delivered the goods. When he gave the goods to him, the bailer, at that time only his lien has come to an end, and further he cannot claim it. Just by having some parts now, he cannot say that you have to pay for my previous one. So you pay and then only I'll give you two parts. No, it is not acceptable. So whenever the right arises, he has to claim it immediately. If he is waiving off or giving up his right, then he cannot claim it again. And again, in case if he is having some parts like this, at that time also he cannot claim for the previous amount. Clear? Yes. You can see this right of particular lien in other cases also. It is not only under the case of bailment, you can see in other cases also. The lien of finder of goods, that is dealt in section 168. Even the finder of the goods has got, finder of the lost goods, I'll be more clear, finder of the lost goods, in case if the goods are lost and found by some person, he has got a lien over that. That is discussed under section 168, which we will be discussing further. The next one is pawnees or pledgees lien. That comes under your pledge. So even the pledge person, pledgee or pawnee, you can call either one. Even he has got a certain right that is dealt under section 173 and 174. Then agent's lien. Even the agent has got certain lien. That is section 221. That is discussed under section 221. Then unpaid seller's lien. So there is certain lien for unpaid seller that is discussed under section 47 of Sale of Goods Act 1930. Then partner's lien that is discussed under section 52 of Indian Partnership Act. So again you will be coming across this word lien in other chapters also. So better remember what is a lien. Lien means a right to keep possession of another's goods until the debt is cleared. So until the debt is cleared, he can keep in possession. There are two kinds. The first one is particular lien and general lien. Particular lien means on a very specific good. On that particular good, he has got a lien. Now the bailier has given one watch to the bailee to repair it and give it. The bailee has got a control. He can exercise his lien, particular lien over that watch only and nothing else to recover money from the bailier. Got it? Clear? Remember what is particular lien under section 170. Got it? Now let's proceed to general lien. We studied particular lien, right? That is given under section 170. Now let's see what is general lien. General lien is given under section 171 of our Indian Contract Act. There in general lien, it confers the right of general lien in favor of certain kinds of bailies. They have also specified under section 171, they have specified who are the bailies and what are the general lien which they can exercise. Now let's see who are those kinds of bailies. They are, number one, general lien confers general lien for certain bailies under section 171. Number one, it is bankers. General lien of bankers. You should always mention it as general lien of bankers, general lien of factors, general lien of wharfingers, the general lien of attorneys, and general lien of policy brokers. So these are the 5 different kinds of bailee which is mentioned under section 171 for recovering the default amount and exercising the general lien. So in order to recover the amount, they are exercising general lien and for this particular bailies. So now let's try to know what is general lien. General lien means it says that they can retain the goods for a general balance of accounts of any goods paid to them. There are number of goods. You can say, till now we were discussing just one good. The bailier gives one good to B. B becomes the bailee for possession for 1 month. No, even this can also happen. He can give 2 or 3 goods to bailee. And now if at all he has made the default in his payment, he can take the possession of some goods and say that you please give me the amount which I have to get it, which I rightfully have to get it, and I'll give you the amount. So it is general. He is not having a particular. I gave you an example of a watch. Now I give this watch to my friend for repairs. She's my friend. I give it her to repair. So now I have to pay her for the repair. Whatever the labor she's put in, I have to pay it. If at all I don't pay for this watch, she has a right to exercise particular lien on this watch. But when it comes to more goods, if I have given my friend 2 or 3 goods, then she has a right to exercise general lien so that she can get a general balance. She can get a balance amount. Whatever the amount is due from my side, she can recover it from me. Maybe some previous balance I have not given to her. That can be recovered. Right? So this is general lien. This is the concept of general lien. Please do understand what is the difference between particular lien and general lien. Then you can answer it. Got it? So this is general lien. So it is some service. Always there is some service rendered. Whenever there is a lien, do remember there is some particular service rendered, and for that remuneration has to be given. Plus there is some goods in the possession of the bailee. Then only this right comes into picture. Right of lien comes into picture. Maybe a particular lien or a general lien. So this is a very important point to be remembered. What it is, there is some particular service rendered plus there are other goods in possession. There is some goods in possession. For that you have to remunerate, give the amount to the bailee, and in case of your failure in terms of payment, the bailee can have the goods. Got it? Now let's proceed. Now let's go to this bankers, general lien of bankers. Now how bankers can exercise this general lien? So the banker has actually got a right to exercise this general lien only, not a particular lien. It is always some general lien only. He can retain the goods till the amount loan amount is satisfied. I am giving an example of yes, it is always you take a loan from a bank, so till the amount is satisfied, he can retain the goods. See, under this bank, you may be having two accounts. One is a loan account, another one is a fixed deposit account. If you have made a default in loan account, then the bank people can recover from fixed deposit account. If you have a balance in fixed deposits, right, then that can be recovered from fixed deposits. So this is how actually it works under bankers, general lien of bankers. Remember this example always. Very simple. You have a loan account in a bank, at the same time you have an FD account in your bank. Now you have made a default. You don't pay after continuously asking by the bank also, you don't pay. So now what bank can do is, bank can recover from your FD account. This is your case law also. Your case law, that is Srimati case Nagalambika versus Corporation Bank Virajpet. This is a Karnataka case, and it was said that if at all there is a loan account and FD account, you can recover it for the default of loan. You can recover it from FD account, FDR. That is, if you have fixed deposit receipts, from that they can recover it. This case was actually a very important judgment. Why? Because the judgment was followed in many other cases also. So this is very important case law. Srimati case Nagalambika versus Corporation Bank Virajpet. Got it? Loan account and FD account. Remember it as loan account and FD account. Default in loan can be recovered from FD account. Now let's move on to this case. Syndicate Bank versus Vijay Kumar and Nakulan versus Deputy GM Canara Bank. What happens in this case, that it was actually held that the bank could retain the gold ornaments which was offered as a security for not discharging the loan in respect of another personal loan. So basically there are two loans taken. Let's take it as loan A, loan B. Loan B is a personal loan. Loan A is for some business. Now I have taken a loan by giving my gold ornaments. Got it? So I have made a default. I haven't paid. Now what it says, that in case if I don't pay the amount, whatever the gold ornaments I have kept for the other loan, they can take it and they can discharge it. I mean discharge it in the sense they can recover it. So it says that in this case what happens is, the bank could retain the gold ornaments. They had retained certain gold ornaments which was offered as a security for not discharging the liability in respect of a personal loan account. So he had a due in his personal loan account, and he had taken another loan, and for that another loan A, he had given his gold. And now he is made a default, so he can default in the personal account, right? So from whatever the gold is pledged for the other loan, they can recover it from that particular good whatever he has pledged. That is, he has pledged a gold, so they can recover that gold and take it for discharging his liability of his personal loan. And one more point to be noted in this case was the personal loan had no security. There was no security kept for this personal loan. So for that recovery of personal loan, they took the gold which was pledged for another loan. Always remember it as loan A, loan B. Take loan B as a personal loan. There was no security for the personal loan and he has made a default. So for that, they took the goods pledged, that is the gold ornaments pledged for another loan, loan A, and they satisfied their debt. Got it? Clear. This is all about your general lien of bankers. So always remember, if there is any loan, they can satisfy from the other account. It should not be the account of other person. It should be the account of a customer who has taken a loan itself. If he has got 2 or 3 accounts, and which if any account has got sufficient money which can discharge his liability, then they can take it from that loan. That account. Sorry, from that account. Got it? Now, let's move on to the next one. General lien of factors. Now, what do you mean by the word factor? Factor means mercantile agents. They are agents. Basically, they are agents. And they come within the meaning of Section 29 of Sale of Goods Act 1930. So, you can find them under Sale of Goods Act. So, basically, the definition of the factor goes like this. A factor is an agent who is interested with the possession of goods of his principal for selling them. So he is given certain goods for selling and that goods are of his principal. He is just given the possession. Got it? So that they are called factors. Got the meaning of factor? Now, in case if the principal doesn't pay him properly, or else if he doesn't give a commission, or else if he doesn't give any salary for him, then he has a right of general lien on that property or on that goods that belongs to the principal. Got it? So, those goods are in his possession. By the very definition, you got to know that goods are in his possession. So, when the goods are in his possession, he can exercise the general lien on those goods and recover if any amount is due from the principal. Now we have a beautiful case law for this. The case law is E.H. Parekh versus King Emperor. The case is very interesting. I'll tell you. It is also simple. There is an appellant. Appellant is this person, E.H. Parekh. He is a proprietor of a firm called Motor Engineer and Coach Builders, which is at Lucknow. He is a proprietor of a firm. He basically repairs some vehicles. There was a Raja, the person called Raja Amrapal Singh. He entrusted that firm with the possession of his American car called Moon for sale. He says that he gives the possession of the car and says that please sell this car. Later, after some days, what happens? The Raja's estate is taken over by Court of Wards. They take it. They take over his estate, Raja's estate. Now, this car is also one of Raja's estate, right? So, the manager of Court of Wards, they come and say that, see, they go to this proprietor and say, since this is Raja's estate, now Raja's estate is taken over by us, you have to give this car back. The appellant says that, this applicant says that, no, why should I give? I won't give. I am exercising my right of lien over that car. He has given me for sale and I am having it in my possession. Why should I give it to you? I won't give it to you. Then the Court of Ward, people go and file a case against this proprietor, E.H. Parekh, and says that he is not obeying the lawful authority and he says that he has got a right over it, general lien over this particular car. Now the case is gone to the court. Court says that this proprietor E.H. Parekh is right. He has got a general lien over the car, and if at all you want to recover it, they have to give him the compensation amount, whatever is rightfully have to be paid to him has to be paid. But the important decision was that he has got a general lien over the car as a agent of the principal. Got it? Simple? The case is simple. Remember it very well. There is a proprietor of a firm who deals with the repair, sale of cars and all, and there is a Raja who entrusts him with a car and he says them to sell it. Then the Raja's estate is taken over by the Court of Wards, and the Court of Wards manager approaches this proprietor and asks him to return it back since it belongs to the Raja. Since it was Raja's estate that now belongs to the Court of Wards, which is taken over. The Raja's estate was taken over. Since the Raja's estate was taken over, so now it belongs to Court of Wards. And the applicant said, no, I won't return, on the ground that he has got a general lien over that property or good, and they file a case saying that he has not obeyed the lawful authority. The court held that it is true, that he has not given back the property since he has got a lien over it, and here he becomes a factor, that is an agent and a principal. Got it? Simple. I think the case is simple under factors. Now let's move on to the next part, that is wharfingers. Who are wharfs? These are the what exactly you mean by wharf is, there is some loading and unloading in the vessels. See, whenever a ship or a boat which has to travel from one destination to other destination is taking the goods, there is some person who is required to load and unload it, right? So those persons are called as wharf. Loading and unloading vessel at sea or river are called wharf. Remember this. So now wharfingers means a person. Is a person who does all these things, who does loading and unloading, are wharfingers. So under section 171, that is general lien, they have conferred this wharfingers with the lien over the goods of his customers until the wharfage, that is charges that are needed to pay to him for loading and unloading, are paid. I'll explain it to you. What it says is, section 171 has given a right of lien. See, you are loading and unloading the vessels at the sea, right? So you can ask for the customers to pay you the amount for your labor, and if at all they don't pay you for your labor, you can have the possession of their goods, and after the payment you can release them. Got it? So wharf means a person loading, wharf means loading and unloading vessels at sea or river. Wharfingers means a person who is doing this job, that is loading and unloading at the sea or river. Here he becomes a bailee again. Remember how is it related to bailor, bailee and all? He becomes a bailee because now he is taking a possession of the goods. He is then loading. He is doing some duty which needs a reasonable care and attention. So he is doing it. So that's why he will come under this as a bailee, and that is why he is given this right. Clear? So wharfinger means a person who does this job, and wharfage. Wharfage means WHARFAGE. Wharfage means it is a charge which has to be paid to the wharfinger. So in case of failure by the customer to pay wharfage, that is the charges for his service or his labor, then he can take the possession of the goods and return it only after the payment. Got it? Simple. We'll move on to the next. General lien of attorneys. You know who are attorneys? I need not say that. So, even they do have certain rights under this. When you're talking about the general lien of attorneys, there are two different opinions which have come from the court. The first one was in case of Balakesar Bhai versus Naranji Valji. It was said that attorney can hold the papers entrusted to him subject to the lien of his costs. So to be more simple, they said that, see, in case after the suit, after the case is over, the judgment, you have got a judgment, you have to pay certain expenses, right? You have to pay your lawyer or advocate a fees, right? So in case if they are not paying the fees, I'm giving it in a very simple manner, in case if the fees is not paid, then the attorney can exercise their lien and have a control of all the papers or documents pertaining to the case. This was given in this was held in this particular case, the first one. Got it? Now, again, in this case, R.D. Saxena versus Balram Prasad, they held that no lien over the claims papers for unpaid fees. They said that no, you cannot exercise lien for the unpaid fees of your claims. Now what to do? Why should we not exercise the claim over the claims, papers, documents and all? It is very important, right, in a case without which you cannot prove the case, right? So now if at all, why not? The question may come in your mind. They said that under section 171, that is general lien, those documents cannot be included because nowhere it mentioned that these papers and all would come under section 177 and you can term it as goods. Say, to be more precise, that those goods are being paid. Here, and one more thing, very important thing to be noted is under your section basic definition of your contract of bailment also says that there should be some delivery of possession, right? Delivery of possession of goods. There is no delivery of possession of goods also here. And there is no contract of bailment also. The client is not coming and saying that you please have this paper for some time. Then even that is not entered. Nothing formal which shows that there is a contract of bailment or there is a transfer of possession. Nothing has happened like this, and it is not even mentioned under section 171 also. So, keeping these 2 points in mind, the court said that no, here it said that no, it does not become a bailment. So, here it said that the papers of the claimant was actually valid. You can exercise general lien, but here you cannot exercise. They have given a very technical analysis of section 171 and your definition also. They have taken both the things and they have said that no, it is not, because under section, you have to always mention section 171 and your basic definition, wherein the important points which I told you is always taking possession, transfer of possession has not taken place and nor contract of bailment is entered. That is why it is not. Remember in this, it is not a bailment at all and you cannot exercise general lien. So these were the 2 important points which were told in this particular case. Now let's proceed further. General lien of policy brokers. Now who are these policy brokers? Policy brokers means a person who acts as an insurance agent. Here we are particularly talking about marine insurance. So there it is simple, it is said that yes, the policy brokers can exercise right of general lien. They have a right of general lien. Clear? They can exercise whatever they have through this. Agents can exercise general lien and they can till their amount is recovered. Clear? The last right is right of suit against a wrongdoer. It is given under section 180 of Indian Contract Act. It says that if there is any wrongful act done to the bailee, wrongfully they have entered into a contract, or something wrongful has happened, then the bailee can file a case against that person. Here, one more important point to be noted is the suit here can be filed not only by bailee, it is also by bailer. Section 180 has given this provision saying that yes, if something wrongful happens, it is not only the bailee, the bailer can also file a case. If any third person wrongfully deprives the bailee the use or possession of the goods bailed to him or causes any injury, at that time they can file a case against the wrongdoer and also can claim the compensation for it. Got it? Now we'll go to the case law. Purushottam Das Banarasi Das versus Union of India. What happens in this case is there is a person A. He fraudulently, by fraudulent means, he produces the forged railway receipts to the railway authorities and takes the goods from there, certain goods from there. After taking the goods from there, he pledges it to B for some amount. He pledges it to B, person called B, for some amount. Now, the railway authorities, they come and say that no, this is our property, our goods, which has been taken away from us fraudulently. You please return the goods to us. Now they approach the court, both of them. The person to whom the goods is pledged, that is B, and the railway authorities, they approach the court to decide whose goods it is. There in the court it was decided that yes, it belongs to the railway authorities. Got it? Now there is a third party. Who is that third party? A. Because of him, he has suffered losses. So now A becomes liable to compensate for the losses of B. And also section 181 gives one provision wherein it says that any compensation or any relief for any injury or damage caused to the bailee or bailer, it will be given in their respective interest. Whatever their interest or whatever rightfully it should belong to them, it will be given to them. Now we'll deal with the last part of the bailment, that is position of finder of goods. When we were discussing the initial class of bailment, I had mentioned that the finder of the goods, lost goods to be more precise, becomes bailee. Got it? You remember? Yes. From that we can ascertain that what is the position. Now let us know what is the position of finder of goods. I told you he becomes as a bailee, and he has to return. He'll be having the possession till he finds the owner of the goods, and he'll be getting all the rights, and he has a certain duties which a bailee has to perform. The same thing even the finder of the goods has to perform. Now let's see one by one what are his duties. So section 171 gives us the says that a finder of the goods becomes bailee. So it says that as per section 171, you'll get to know that it is clearly mentioned in this section under your Contract Act that the finder of the lost goods, he comes to the position of a bailee. Bailee is a person to whom the possession of goods is given. So here there is no bailer coming and saying that we'll enter into agreement, I'll be giving you the possession. No, but here because he is finding the goods, he becomes bailee, and now it is his duty to take reasonable care of the goods which he has found until he finds the real owner. He can even claim certain compensation from the owner also. Now let's see what are his duty. The duty which is mentioned under section 151. What was the duty? Duty to take reasonable care. So whatever amount he has exercised, that can be compensated. That is secondary. Primary thing is, see, he has to take a duty as if he is taking off his own goods. He has to act as a man of prudence, so that the man of ordinary prudence, so that whatever the duties or whatever the expenses he incurs in maintaining those goods, the same in his own goods, the same thing has to be done for the goods which he has found also. So it says that as per section 151, he has to behave in a prudent way, man of ordinary prudence, take care of the goods as if it is in the same bulk, same quantity and of same value. This is what we studied under section 151. So here also we are studying the same thing. So his duty is similar to that of section 151. Now let's know what are his rights. So he has got certain rights. Those rights are right of lien, which is given under section 168, right of claiming reward if any announced, even that is mentioned under section 168. This is given in para 1 and para 2. Then right to sell the goods found. Now does he has a right to sell the goods which he has found? Yes. At certain circumstances, yes. So that is mentioned under 169. Under which circumstances does the bailee become bound to sell the goods? Now let's go one by one. First one, right of lien, which is given under section 168. Always remember, he has found only one good. See, if suppose this bangle is lost, so he has just found a bangle. So it is his duty to return that bangle to the owner. That's it. So, if at all, if there are some expenses in finding out who the real owner is, if he has incurred certain expenses, or if the bangle is damaged, he repairs it. So, if he has done anything for that particular goods, so he can claim compensation from the bailer, the real owner. So, if till the real owner gives him the amount, that the amount is the expenses which he has borne for handing over the goods from him to the owner, so those expenses can be claimed. Till then, he can exercise the right to lien. Lien is what? What did I say lien is? Yes, right to take the possession till the debt amount is cleared. So he has a right to lien, and that too in specific it is a particular lien. Only on that specific good he has got that lien. Clear? Fine. So your 168 gives this points. Next is right of claiming reward if announced. In case if any reward is announced, we have seen this in so many cases. There is some goods lost, and they say that in case if you find this good, we will give you rupees 50,000 as a reward. I'm only talking about the goods and the property. So in case if any goods is lost, under 168 there is a provision that the bailee, that is the finder of the goods, can claim that reward, and then he can give it to the owner of the goods. Got it? Clear? This is clear. He can claim his reward. If at all, what happens in some other cases, let's go take an example. Now there is a person A and there is a person B. B has lost his purse and A found B's purse. So then what happens? B promises to A that, see, you have found my purse, I'll give you rupees 1,000 for this. Now what is B's promise to A is that I'll give you 1,000 rupees because you have found my purse. Now B is liable, is bound to pay to A rupees 1,000 even after finding the goods. When at the time of delivery of the goods to the owner, if the owner promises any amount, the owner is still liable to pay to the finder of the goods. See, there are two things to be noted. Initially, before the finder approaching the owner, he can announce the reward, or else after finding the goods, if he promises to pay, then also the owner is bound to pay. Clear? So two important points to be noted for this point, right of claiming reward if announced. We go to the last point, that is right to sell the goods found. Now this is quite interesting. Right to sell the goods found. When can the goods be sold? Because he is not the owner, he just has a possession of it. So does he have a right? That question arises. The section 169 makes it clear, saying that yes, he has a right to sell the goods. Under what conditions? The first one is if the owner cannot be found out after reasonable diligence. After he searching with all due diligence that the owner is not found, then he can sell the goods. Point number one, clear? Then second point, or if he refuses upon demand to pay the lawful charges of the finder. So if the finder has said that, see, you have to pay me this many charges because I have lost my amount. I mean, I have spent from my pocket to safeguard your goods. You have to pay me these charges. And if at all he does not pay, then he can sell the goods, and whatever the realization amount, he can keep it. Who? The finder of the goods. Got it? These two come in the first point. That is, if they cannot find the owner after due diligence also, then a reasonable diligence, or if whatever the lawfully charges are there, if at all it is not paid by the owner or the bailer, then he can retain and sell the goods. Next, point B. If there is a danger of perishing or losing a greater part of the value of goods. There are some goods which are perishable in nature. In case if such goods are found by the finder of the goods, and keeping it for long and not finding the owner makes that particular goods to be perished, or if the greater value of the part is becomes the greater part of the efficacy is lost, then he can sell the goods. Or when the lawful charges of the finder in respect of a thing is 2/3 of the value. That is, if 2/3 of the value in finding the lawful charges are there of a finder, that is, he might have taken a reasonable care and protected, and there is 2/3 of the charges incurred for that. So he can retain the goods and sell it, and can take the amount whatever he gets from that particular goods. Clear? So I'll just sum up this. So position of a finder of goods is that of a bailee. So whatever the duty mentioned under the section 151 becomes the duty of the finder of the goods also. That is, he has to act as a man of prudence, as if he is taking care of his own goods of same value, same bulk and same quantity. Then coming to the rights, he has a right of lien, that is mentioned under section 168. Here, particularly, he has specific, to be very specific, he has a particular lien because he has found just one property or any one goods. Okay, good. Then, right of claiming the reward if announced. If any reward is announced, he can claim that. That is under again 168. Then, right to sell the goods found. That is given under section 169. After dealing with bailment, now we will move on to the next part under the unit 2, that is pledge.